So let's talk about the different kinds of debt. So I talked a little about the family debt and the Federal Reserve debt, the government debt, and then our own personal consumption type of debt. So here's a great example of the average U.S. household by debt type. And you can see that most average households are in about $16,000 to $17,000 of credit card debt, about $176,000 in mortgage debt, and $28,000 in auto debt. Student loan debt's right around $50,000. You get the point. So everybody's racking up this kind of debt. This is really important for you to understand that it's not necessarily good debt, but we're going to show you in a minute how inflation is going to help erode this debt for you with you doing nothing. The second piece is going to be the Federal Reserve or the governments. And if you guys don't already know, what we are sitting in right now is in the fiscal year of 2020, the federal budget deficit was $3.1 trillion. So what that means is that this is more than triple the shortfall recorded in fiscal year 2019. What this means is, if you focus here, the outlays are $6.6 trillion and the revenues are $3.3 trillion. So imagine if that was your own personal home. So you're spending almost 100% more than you're actually collecting. And by the way, this is all public information. You guys should be able to see this. This is at cbo.gov on the topics around the federal budget. It's all here. Go check it out. But the bottom line is that we are hemorrhaging cash at the federal level, and that's creating more and more and more debt, as we talked about earlier. So there's two things happening at the same time. One, the government's creating a bunch of debt, and two, families are also creating lots of debt. So now let's turn to the debt to GDP. And if you guys don't know what GDP is, it's gross domestic product. So you can kind of see what's happening here. This line here is the GDP, okay? So this is the production of the U.S. economy as a whole. This is the debt. And what's happening right now is the U.S. debt is surged by millions of dollars as consumption has declined and businesses have failed. So this right here is the coronavirus. This right here is the pandemic we're going through. So what we have is we have a consumption issue and a rising debt issue. So typically the gross domestic product, or the GDP to debt, like right here, this we had the ability to pay off the debt. At some point in here, we passed, the debt was higher than the GDP. And that's when it starts to become worrisome. And so you need to understand that the government now is in a position where it's going to have to spend a lot more money on the economy to try to keep businesses afloat, to try to pay people's rent, to try to give them income so that they can live and work and eat, and all that stuff's coming. And we're still in the middle of this pandemic. So expect to see more and more CARES Act type programs into 2021. As this starts to continue to rise, you're going to see more and more and more debt. So the point here is that the government is going to stack more and more and more debt up, and it's also going to happen at a personal consumption level. So everyone's going to get into a lot more debt in 2021 and 2022 for sure.